The moral argument for God's existence claims that the existence of objective morality is good reason to believe that God exists as the objective basis for morality. This argument even claims that if God does not exist, then there is no objective standard of morality, making morality subjective based on people's opinions. In that case, morality just becomes one person's opinion versus another person's opinion, and we do not have an objective standard that would allow us to determine if one person's opinion was better or worse than another person's opinion. Going off that thought process, some people will ask if God is the objective standard of morality, if we can be good without God. On the one hand, the answer seems obvious. Of course, we know that people who do not believe that God exists can be morally good and perform morally good actions. We don't see an atheist or an agnostic helping someone or serving the poor or something like that and wonder how it's possible for them to do that. In fact, people who don't believe in God sometimes behave in morally better ways than people who claim to believe in God. The Bible even seems to acknowledge this when it says, "So when the Gentiles, who do not by nature have the law, do what the law demands, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the work of the law is written on their hearts. Their consciences confirm this." This verse is saying that just like people who believe in God, people who do not believe in God have the moral law written on their hearts, where they know what actions are objectively morally right and objectively morally wrong. So, both from what we can tell in our own experience and from what the Bible tells us itself, people can be good without believing in God. However, that's not the question that we're asking today. We're asking if, without God existing, there can be an objective standard of morality that all people everywhere ought to follow, not if people can behave morally well while not believing in God. To answer this question, we need to know what we mean by objective morality. Objective morality means that we have moral obligations that we are to fulfill that are binding on us regardless of what we think. For example, let's say you're standing on a train track and you see an elderly lady who is blind and deaf standing on the train track, and you have full knowledge of everything that's going on. You know she's blind and deaf, and you see a train coming, and you choose not to do anything. You have enough time to go over there and get the lady out of the way safely where you're not going to get hurt and she's not going to get hurt, and you have the mental capacity to understand what will happen if you do not push this person out of the way. Say all that is the case, and you still choose not to go and help the lady and get her out of the way of the train. It seems like there's an objective standard outside of you and me that says that this person should go and help get the lady because it's objectively the right thing to do. It's not just a preference, it's objectively what you should do in that situation. However, if there really is an objective standard of morality that all people everywhere should obey, then there also needs to be an objective source in which to ground that morality, which can only be God. One way to form the moral argument for God's existence goes like this. If God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties do not exist. Objective moral values and duties exist, therefore God exists. This argument is basically just formulating what we were saying earlier, that if God does not exist, then there is no metaphysically objective grounding for morality. Morality just becomes one person's subjective opinion against another person's subjective opinion. However, if objective morality really does exist, then God must exist as the grounding for objective morality, meaning that the closer that an action lines up to God's standard of morality, the morally better that it is. It also seems that in order for morality to be objective, it must be grounded in God's nature himself, which is an eternal attribute of God, not something that's subjective or could change on a whim. However, if God did not exist, then there is no objective standard of morality against which we can measure our actions as being morally good or morally evil. Even atheist Richard Dawkins has pointed out that without God, there can be no evil and no good. Nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. However, our experience, and I would say even our intuition, tells us that we do not live in a morally indifferent world. Whenever someone is being treated unfairly and says, "That's not fair," they're showing that they really believe in objective morality. They're not just saying that the other person's behavior doesn't happen to line up with their subjective preferences. They're appealing to a standard outside of themselves and the other person to say that your behavior is not lining up with this standard, therefore that's not fair. They are appealing to a standard outside of themselves that apply to all people in all places at all times. Even atheist Michael Ruse, a philosopher at Florida State University, believes this to be true. He has said, "The man who says it is morally acceptable to rape little children is just as mistaken as the man who says that 2 + 2 = 5. While atheism fails to provide an objective foundation for the morality that we all experience, God's nature provides a reasonable, objective foundation in which to ground morality. So the existence of objective morality gives us good reason to believe that God exists. Please like and subscribe for more videos that share God's love through apologetics, and remember, Jesus loves you.